The invisible child feels like no one sees them, no one hears them, they're invalid. And oftentimes the invisible child becomes the invisible child because they're trying to avoid a parent or a caregiver. So this parent might be emotionally immature, might be egocentric, might be narcissistic. And so this child tries to avoid maybe harsh remarks, embarrassment, or being endangered, abused by their caregiver or parent. So this child suppresses his or herself, becoming invisible because this child believes the less I interact with people, the less likely I am to be harmed. The more the invisible child lives from these narratives, if I show up as myself, I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be spoken to harshly, I'm going to be abused, I'm going to be embarrassed. The child begins to feel as if he or she is unworthy and doesn't fit in to the world that they exist in. So they create a bubble and they begin to perform for persons. So I'll be who I need to be in order to receive love, in order to receive acceptance, or in order to remain safe. Because being who I am isn't usually safe, because when I'm who I am, I get shunned, I get harsh remarks, I get abused, I get yelled at, I get embarrassed. So I don't want to be myself, I'd rather be someone else. And these are the seeds of codependency. This is when the child will begin to people please or become a million, sensing who they need to be in order to gain acceptance or love from their caregiver or from their parent. The more the child continues to do this, like anything that we do, the child creates a habit of rejecting his or herself in order to please everyone else. And that habit doesn't just break when they become an adult. Habits break when we're intentional. But would you be intentional about breaking that habit if it has won you over with your parents, if it has won you over in school with teachers, if it's won you over in your different friend groups? I'm just going to be whatever my friends need me to be. I'm just going to be whatever my boyfriend needs me to be. I'm just going to be whatever my parents need me to be, because when I reject myself and surrender to everyone else's ideology and wants and needs for me, I get love, I get safety, I get acceptance. And this has been the motto for this child his or her whole life. So this will continue to be the motto for this child in their adult relationships. And they will continue to accept egocentric users and abusers as friends and as loved ones, because they grew up around egocentric users, abusers, and narcissists, and this is how they had to perform in order to get their needs met. So it doesn't feel dysfunctional. It feels like home. It feels familiar. And that behavior was normalized because the child grew up thinking this is what I need to do to survive. The child didn't grow up thinking this is dysfunctional, this is abusive, this isn't right, because a child can't even process the fact that they're living with people who are harming them, whether it's emotionally, physically, sexually, or neglect. Children don't have the mental capability to process the fact that my caregivers and my parents are doing something that's hurtful. And I have to live here for the next, even as adults, that's difficult for us to process. To live with a husband that's abusive, that's difficult. So imagine a child. And so what the child does is the child normalizes the dysfunction and creates those survival tools, survival mechanisms to function in that dysfunctional environment. What the adult child would have to do is realize, accept, and confront the fact that they didn't have healthy parents. And that's for whatever reason. This isn't for the parents, this is for the adult children who are dealing with the residue of their dysfunctional parents. So the child would have to accept the fact that I didn't have healthy parents. I grew up in an environment that was abusive, dysfunctional, neglectful, etc. And some of the devices and the mechanisms that I have created to protect me aren't necessary anymore. Like Paul said, as an adult, I put away childish ways. That might be childish thinking. As an adult, you don't need to be afraid of touching the stove anymore, but as a child, you did. So maybe in that environment, you need to protect yourself by suppressing yourself, but as an adult, you don't have to protect yourself in that same way.